Over the last couple weeks, I've made a lot of content on internet controversies. I've kept my finger on the pulse of any type of online drama. Just been this adventurous little greasy goblin that's been glued to internet drama. And honestly, at this point, it's reaching like an addiction status. Kind of like a heroin addict fishing used needles out of a dumpster to get their fix. But in my case, the drug is something much harder than heroin. It's drama. It's like this crucial nutrient that my body's been craving, like a newborn baby lashing out for his mom to pop a tit out for milk to suckle. I'm getting carried away and it's getting weird. Point is, I've made a lot of content on this stuff, and I wanted to do a video today to follow up with some of the bigger stories that I've covered that at the time didn't have any closure. But now that the drama anime arc is starting to wind down a little bit, we're starting to reach the season finale to a lot of these things, so I'd like to give you where all of this is at, because a lot of it has very happy endings so far. Not all of it, but some of it. So let's just go ahead and get into it now. The first one I want to talk about is that massive Twitch injury, which I've made 2 videos on now because I find it to be a truly heinous situation. I'll give you the quick breakdown. Streamer by the name of Adriana Chechik went to TwitchCon at the Lenovo Intel booth where they had a foam pit and like gladiatorial combat thing where you push people off a pedestal into the foam pit. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem that the pit was set up properly and resulted in just a death trap. It actually just kind of feels like something out of Wile E. Coyote's playbook here where he paints like a tunnel on a rock hoping the Roadrunner will hit it. That's what they did with this foam pit. It was basically just a fake. It was like an illusion of cushioning. It seems like there was only 2 layers of foam blocks, so what ended up happening is a lot of people would fall in and get injured. Unfortunately, the worst injury was a life-changing one, suffered by Adriana Chechik. She jumped into the foam pit and broke her back in 2 different places, which of course needed multiple surgeries, all of which she's had now, including bone fusions. She had to like relearn to walk. It's been a wild journey for sure, but it seems she's making a solid recovery. She even had her first stream since this incident today. So I'll show you a quick clip from that.
Breath, if you can't tell, I'm already out of breath. I get out of breath holding my phone, everything. But they did an amazing job. The stitches were inside because I'm a model. So I was like, can you do anything to hide the stitches? So the scar doesn't look, and I'm growing my armpit hair out, so don't judge me. But the scar looks really...
So yeah, she's able to stand now. She even streamed for a little while, and it just looks like she's making a much quicker recovery than pretty much anyone expected, myself included. Back injuries are notorious for being lifelong, like chronic pain situations. I had like a slight boo-boo to my L4 at one point, and that shit lasted months. So I can only imagine like what this is going to look like for the future for her, but it really does seem like she's making a great recovery. A lot of people have been wondering if she's going to sue Twitch or Lenovo or Intel or anyone responsible for the injury, and unfortunately there's no new information there. I have to imagine she's at least considering it due to how expensive all of the medical treatments have been so far, as well as how much there's going to be down the line as well. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see there. But she did also reveal something super sad that resulted from this injury, even outside of the injury itself, and I'm just going to let this clip play.
And then also like I don't care, everyone's gonna know, but I was pregnant and I didn't find out until I was in the hospital. So I also have like crazy hormones. I'm not pregnant anymore because of the surgery. I couldn't keep it, but my hormones are just also through the fucking roof because of that.
Yeah, just a super sad development in that story there, unfortunately. Not much more can be said about the damage that's been done from the TwitchCon foam pit here. That has just been a true disaster, and anyone that went to the foam pit and survived should feel blessed, cause goddamn. Now, not every story I want to follow up on today is Twitch based, but this next one is. This is the Amouranth situation. This one seems to be having a happy conclusion. You'll remember not too long ago on stream, she left for a little while because her husband called and was yelling and screaming at her. During this argument, she unmuted because he had threatened to kill her dogs, and he said that on stream too for everyone to hear, and he just seems like an absolutely unhinged lunatic. Comes across very abusive. Amouranth then just had this whole phone call on stream, and a lot came out about how awful her husband is to her. She then shows some of the damage to the house that he's caused in his fits of rage. Just a terrible situation all around. So it seemed like Amaranth was a victim of abuse, and everyone was wondering, well, is she going to leave him and what's going to happen next? And fast forward to today, it does seem like she has gotten out of that situation. She seems to be in a safer position now and seems to be a lot happier. She's doing streams where she's like hanging out with horses, doing what she wants to do, and overall just a pretty positive outcome so far. So yeah, that's the update there. The next story I want to follow up on is actually extremely wacky. It's a fishing cheating scandal. A professional tournament for fishing recently fell victim to absolutely deplorable behaviors from some competitors who disgraced the sanctity of the sport. They cheated by stuffing their fish with like lead balls in order to increase their weight. So what ended up happening is they swindled this tournament out of money, because in fishing, the more your fish weighs, the better you are in the standings. That's what you're being scored on. So they'd take their fish and they'd stuff it with the lead weights to make it weigh more. But they must have flown too close to the sun with this method, because eventually they checked and they cut the fish open and found the lead weights and caught them red-handed. You know, they noticed that this fish weighed a lot more than it appeared. You know, the fish is like the size of my fist, but it weighed like fucking 15 pounds. That fish must have been made out of goddamn tungsten. So they got suspicious, cut it open, and found out they were cheating. And they could have been cheating for far longer than this tournament. There's really no telling just how much they've actually cheated and how much they've scammed out of these tournaments. It could be like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they get like boats for prizes sometimes too. Like, they could have made a pretty penny off of all of this cheating up until now. And now they're facing felony charges, to which they're pleading not guilty. So Jacob and Chase are now being indicted by a grand jury on felonies of cheating, attempted grand theft, and possessing criminal tools, as well as a misdemeanor of unlawful ownership of wild animals. Getting a little more information on that, the unlawful ownership of wild animals refers to the raw fillets they had on their boat, which they were also stuffing the fish with, I believe, in order to increase their weight. So yeah, they stuffed these fish like a Christmas stocking. They fucking stuffed it like a Thanksgiving turkey. And now they're getting slapped around with some pretty serious charges that carry some potentially hefty results here. So these repercussions could be huge. We don't know how the trial is going to play out, but I thought this was a pretty interesting update to this story. Now the next one I want to follow up on is kind of similar in this regard, because it involves some people getting charged with some felonies. I made a video talking about that teacher that went around at like an elementary school and started scaring the 4-year-olds or 5-year-olds, however old the kids were. They're toddlers. She put on a mask and went around yelling and screaming in their face and shaking them around. It's a pretty cruel and disturbing thing to do, because she'd just go around classroom to classroom, shaking, yelling, and screaming in the kids' faces. The kids are crying their eyes out. At one point, one of the kids tries to run away in fear, but the teacher picks him up, yelling and screaming, and sets him down again and starts yelling and screaming at him again. It's pretty rough. And now, 4 of those people that were involved in this incident are being charged with felony child abuse, as well as 1 other participant being charged with a misdemeanor. Now, I did see some people arguing that this charge is a bit harsh for the teachers here, but I just wholeheartedly disagree. There is like no justification or excuse to try and like traumatize these kids. They are too young to realize that it's not real. They were screaming and crying and being shaken around by a scary person yelling and screaming at them. Also, it seems like it was even used as a disciplinary action, because at one point the lady in the mask was asking who's been like naughty in the classroom, and then she'd target that kid specifically and yell and scream at them real loud. So I don't see how this is anything beyond just completely fucked up and cruel. So I think the charge makes sense here. I know she wasn't beating the kids or anything like that, but I also don't think that should be like the bar for what we consider to be legitimate abuse. There's different levels to it, and I definitely think this falls under child abuse, especially from a position of a teacher, where you're supposed to be taking care of some people's kids and looking after them and making them feel safe or enthusiastic about going to like daycare or school. now they're just going to be fucking frightened to go back. Now, moving on to the last thing I'd like to give an update to. This is about the story of that woman who shot and skinned a husky and started posting pictures bragging about it on Facebook. She said she thought it was a wolf, so she shot it and then started skinning it and posed with it, smiling and everything. And then people pointed out, that's not a wolf you shot, it's a husky. So then she doubled down saying, well, I thought it was a wolf, as if that makes it like okay or like makes you look less of a stupid asshole. But anyway, now she's being charged with a crime. That crime is animal cruelty, which she's going to have to face in court pretty soon. You can also see a little excerpt there from her post about how excited she was to get to kill a wolf pup, even though it was just a 6-month-old husky that looked nothing like a wolf. The animal cruelty charge clearly makes sense here. I think she is fucking dangerously dumb. Hopefully she faces the full brunt of that charge. And yeah, I just wanted to give like this full, you know, wrap up on where all of these stories I've covered recently are currently. And yeah, that's really about it. So yeah.